Hi, I'm Toy Lancaster, Youth Services Manager for the Lexington Public Library. I wanted to take this opportunity today to talk with you about some of the picture books that we've received in 2013. We do a Best Picture Books of the Year program every year, and these are all selections that are going to be on our bibliography of the best picture books. It is a program that we do every February for adults. The idea is it's an opportunity for parents, grandparents, teachers, daycare workers, anybody that has children in their lives, an opportunity for them to get to view the very best in children's literature. There will be a bibliography available if you're unable to attend the program sometime in February. We would be more than happy to email you the bibliography, or you could pick the bibliography up at any of our 6 locations. Let's get started. This was a very good year, I think, for very young children. I've included 3 board books this year, which is a little unusual. The first one that I would like to talk about is a translation. This series is called Touch, Think, and Learn. As I mentioned, it is a French translation. The author is Xavier Deneux. This first one is called Opposites. What you will notice about this book, even though it's very, very thick, it actually only has 8 pages, and that's because the pages are so thick. And this book is very, very tactile because the illustrations, the raised illustration fits in to the corresponding page. So this one, for instance, is outside, and we have the little rabbit outside. And then this is inside, and we see the little rabbits in the burrow. So this one is titled Opposites. The other one that he released this year is called Colors. One of my favorite illustrations from this one is for green. So we see the raised green leaf. Then over here is the cutout of the leaf shape, and inside we see a little caterpillar. The black and white doesn't show up very well, but I think the blue shows up very nicely. So we have a little submarine over here, but the submarine shape is the same shape as the little whale on the corresponding page. The second book that I would like to talk about that is also a board book, this is called Alpha Block. And if you just look at the size of this, you would think, wow, how could a very young child, make their way through that? But once I open it up here, there's a citation, a page for every letter of the alphabet. So here's the one for M, and we see that M is for, and when we turn the page, M is for moon. So each letter of the alphabet is cut out, and the next page, of course, after M comes N, and here is our large N, and N is for, once we turn the page, for nest. So this is just very, very well done, very creative. The last little board book that I would like to talk about is called I Know a Lot by Stephen Krinsky. On the back of the book it says, an empowering celebration of all that you know. And I think that just sums up this book very, very nicely. I love the retro look of the illustrations. I love the fact that it has a rhyming text. It's just so kid-friendly. Just to give you an idea, I know that rocks are heavy and flowers are light. I know that bright means day and dark means night. So a very, very charming little book. My favorite book for this year of everything that I've looked at has to be this one. This one is called The Day That the Crayons Quit, and it's by Drew Daywalt. Over the course of the year, I look at literally hundreds of picture books, and this one absolutely made me laugh out loud. This to me is so fresh and so different. Oliver Jeffers is the illustrator for this particular one. And the premise for this is a little boy named Duncan went to school to take out his crayons, and he found a stack of letters with his name on them. And when he opens the letters, each letter is written by a different color crayon from his crayon box. And just to give you an idea, I'll read the one that the red crayon has written to Duncan. "Hey Duncan, it's me, Red Crayon. We need to talk. You make me work harder than any of your other crayons. All year long, I wear myself out coloring fire engines and apples, strawberries, and everything else that's red. I even have to work on holidays. I have to color all the Santas at Christmas and all the hearts at Valentine's Day. I need a rest. Your overworked friend, Red Crayon." So there is a letter from each color crayon in his crayon box, and they are just absolutely hysterical. If you can imagine Beige here, poor Beige, his last line is that he pretty much only gets to draw wheat. And let's be honest, when was the last time you saw a kid excited about coloring wheat? So this is just very, very fresh, very different. My personal pick for Caldecott winner, we will see. Stay tuned. It seems like every year I include a book by Emily Gravett, and this year is no exception. Her book this year is titled Again, and it is the story of a little dragon child and his mother. He's had his bath, it's now bedtime, and of course, here he comes with his book. And mother sits down and she reads this nice story, and the story ends, at the very end it says, "And at the end of each day, he shouts out this refrain, 'Tomorrow I'll do it all over again.'" Well, obviously, baby dragon just loves the story, and so when it's over, he very charmingly smiles and says, "Again." And so mother agrees to read it again. She's not nearly as happy, but she does. And of course, again, he wants it again. So we look at mother. Obviously, the story is getting much shorter, and this time she ends the story by saying, "Tomorrow I'll read it all over again." Of course, that does not appease our baby dragon. Again. This time, mother falls asleep. The baby dragon is just so incensed. Again. He becomes so worked up and so angry that he spews fire and literally burns a hole in the book. This is very, very creative. Be sure to look at the end papers. You see the author who is holding a sign here that says, "Do not block the fire exit." And we have the characters from the book that have crawled out of the hole that the baby dragon has made in the book. And they've got the fire extinguisher and are putting out the fire. Emily Gravett is just an absolute delight. I think children will really like that. I selected this book called Open This Little Book by Jessie Klausheimer because it was just so inventive. I do think that children love little books, little things. I think that can be proved through the love that we've had through the years for all of the little Beatrix Potter books. There's something very charming about miniature things. So this book starts in a very traditional manner. Although when we open it up, we see that there's a book in here, open this book. And we see we're instructed to open this little red book. And then we open the little red book, and it says to read about a ladybug who opens a little green book, and reads about a frog who opens a little orange book. And this goes on and on and on until you're left with a very miniature book. And then you read your way back through. And the nice thing here is at the end, you're encouraged to open another book. Very different. I know that I've included Hanoch Piven's books before. I really like books that provide children an opportunity to be active, to be creative, and these books are just fantastic for this. This one is called Let's Make Faces, and it's just a way to encourage children to really look at their environment, look at the things around them, and how can you use those things that you have around the house to make a craft or to have some fun. So we're encouraged here that making faces is fun, but where do you start? First, let's find some. And so he shows us that in our environment, we're faced with little faces everywhere, whether it's a chair, the bathroom sink, an upside down flip-flop, an electrical outlet. They do all look like faces. So you're encouraged to then use a variety of mediums such as fruit and vegetables. Yes, you can turn those into faces. You could look in your dad's garage, look out in the garage and look at dad's tools, and you can take those tools and yes, you can start to see faces in them. I really like how he takes a variety of different mediums and turns them all into faces. I think my absolute favorite was this one. It's called A Sleepy Face, and he uses a house shoe and 2 seashells with a marble inside that make the eyes, and it does look just like the face is yawning. So at the end of the story, he gives you all these ideas and different mediums to use, and he says, now it's your turn, let's make faces, and you're encouraged to just look through your house and to see what you can come up with. Thinking about this book and how I enjoy that, it made me think of this one that came in this year. It's called Welcome to Your Awesome Robot by Vivian Schwartz. The premise for this on the right-hand page is that a little girl receives a box, and she's not quite sure what to do with it, but inside the box there are some instructions, and what is revealed on the instruction sheet is displayed on the left-hand page. And basically you're instructed that this cardboard box can be your base unit of your robot, and how you test it out to know where to put your eye holes and everything, and how you could make different faces for it, and visor holes, and then how you want to have openings for it, and how you could create those, and how to make a chute out of a toilet paper tube, and it just goes on with instructions, and you want to put labels and things and instructions outside on your robot, and here's some sample things that you could create, and by the very end of it, you have an absolutely delightful robot, and you are ready. It has a propeller, an aerial, it has probes and arms, a disguise, a communicator, it has a flashlight, all sorts of things. And I don't think any child after reading this would look at a cardboard box in quite the same way. And I think that that really could open up a world of opportunity on a rainy afternoon, that they too could create their own robot. It's not often that I include a book that really is for bibliotherapy, but we got a little book in this year that several of the children's librarians felt was particularly well done, and we know that this is not the type of book that I think people are just going to pick up on their own. I think that this is an important book, and so we kind of wanted to highlight this a little bit. The one I'm talking about is called The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. I think we all know a child that is shy, that is quiet, that can be overlooked in social settings or in school, or that maybe struggles a little bit in making friends. I think that there's also situations to where we want to talk with our children and teach them to be inclusive and to reach out to children that are a little more quiet. So this book kind of really resonated with us. It's called The Invisible Boy. Just to give you an idea here, it says, "Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Miss Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom because she's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. And Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't." And if you notice, Sophie and Nathan here are very colorful. And when we look at Brian, Brian is shown in black and white. He's largely invisible. So he's invisible to his teacher. Of course, we all remember from our own childhoods, and we see it all the time when children are choosing up teams for sports activities. Of course, this is what happens to Brian. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. And again, we see Brian in with his peers there, and he is the invisible boy in black and white. Well, one day what happens in the classroom is a new boy comes, and the other children, they're not really sure about this new boy. His name is Justin. He has a Korean grandmother, so he's a little bit different. The other children are still checking him out. And we see Brian in the classroom setting again, and it is black and white. But we start to notice there's a little bit of color on Brian's cheek, and it's because this new boy, Justin. And Brian makes a gesture to Justin, a gesture of friendship. He leaves him a note. And all of a sudden, he's very pleased when Justin reciprocates. And over time, there's the little note that Brian leaves in Justin's little cubby. And Brian and Justin become friends. And we notice that Brian is becoming more and more colorful. And all of a sudden, because Justin is accepted into the group, then that means that Brian is accepted into the group. And by the end of the story, there is Brian with his friends, and now Brian is in full color because he's accepted and he's now visible to his peers. There's a wonderful discussion guide at the back and a marvelous bibliography. This is just an important little book. We're always a big sucker for animal books, and this year the one that got us all was one called Trooper. We like this for a lot of reasons, not the least of which was the fact that this is based on a true story. The book is written by Meg Kearney, and it's illustrated by E.B. Lewis, and that's certainly one of our favorite illustrators. So this is the true story of a three-legged stray dog that runs with a pack of wild dogs. He is eventually picked up by the dog catcher, taken to the pound, and there he languishes. I'm sure a part of the reason was the fact that he only had 3 legs. Eventually, all of the dogs that he's picked up with are adopted, and finally, Trooper is the only one left. And I love this line that says, "My heart was a cold, starless night until your face shone through the bars like a mini sun." And so the boy chooses Trooper. It is very, very emotionally rewarding. Beautiful, beautiful watercolor illustrations. And I love the final page. They invent this game called Outside Run. And there they are playing in the snow. And the last line is, they leave 5 footprints in the snow. So we have the 3-legged dog and the 2-legged boy. So this again is called Trooper. This is called Battle Bunny by John Sheshka and Mac Barnett. Make sure that if you select this book that you really pay attention. If you look at the outside of this book, it's made to look like a very old, heavily used book. There's creases in it, and it looks very worn on the edges. And you have to pay particular attention with this one. And on the title page, you need to notice that there is an inscription that says, "Happy birthday, Alexander, to my little birthday bunny on his special day. Love, Gran." And this book, the original book that Gran had given, was called Birthday Bunny. Well, Alexander is not a little bunny anymore, and he's not Gran's little bunny, and he's not very happy with receiving Birthday Bunny, so he writes over the text and changes Birthday Bunny into Battle Bunny. So there's the title page with Battle Bunny. He's added some illustrations, obey me, never. And instead of the little birthday balloons, happy birthday, he has written over it, see what happens to bunnies on Doomsday. So he proceeds, here's the first page, normal text, everything is fine. Today, I'm not just a bunny, I am, instead of the birthday bunny, again, he writes in Battle Bunny. He gives himself scars on his ears, he gives himself an eye patch, he's got a belt here. You can imagine what the original text was, and the way that this is done, you can read the original text, but if you read what Alexander has done to this charming book, this is what he has done to modify it. Battle Bunny made himself his favorite breakfast, brain juice and a bowl of greasy guts. My birthday is the most special day of the year because I get super birthday powers over all of my enemies, and I put my evil plan into action. Who will be the first to try and stop me? So that was Alexander's version of what should have been Birthday Bunny made himself his favorite breakfast, carrot juice and a bowl of carrot Krispies. My birthday is the most special day of the year because I get a super birthday presents from all of my friends, and I get to do whatever I want. I wonder who will be the first to give me my present. So all through this book, he modifies the illustrations and the text, and it is absolutely hysterical. So it's definitely going to take a child, I think a school-age child, to really appreciate, first off, all of the humor and the way that the text is modified. I thought that this would be a wonderful project for a child, that if you went to a thrift store or you had an old book that, you know, the child no longer read or something, that it would be a lot of fun if they were allowed to modify the book on to be what they wanted it to be. So again, Battle Bunny. And seeing this one made me think of another one, and this is one that was from 2012. This is called This Moose Belongs to Me. And when I spoke earlier about the day the crayons quit and Oliver Jeffers, this is Oliver Jeffers. He wrote the story as well as the illustrations. What I like about this, first off, it is a charming story, but secondly, if you go to Amazon.com and go to and bring up This Moose Belongs to Me and scroll down a little bit, there is a video that Oliver Jeffers has done. One of the interesting things about this book, the illustrations are done on what looks to be oil paintings, such as that. And on this little video in Amazon, he takes a conventional landscape oil painting and he gives an art lesson on how to draw a moose in a very few simple steps, and it is utterly charming. And again, I thought that would be a really good creative exercise for children if you were at a yard sale or a thrift sale and you saw just a landscape painting that you could get very, very inexpensively, and then were able to watch that video. You could draw your moose right on this beautiful landscape painting. The premise for this story is there's a little boy named Wilfred who supposedly owned a moose, and he named the moose Marcel. And as everyone knows, moose love apples, and so Marcel doesn't particularly think of himself as Wilfred's pet, and he's not very loyal, and when he smells apples, he is off to get those apples. And Wilfred comes up with a ball of blue yarn to try to tag along behind to keep up with his moose Marcel. And as he's doing so, we see a little lady who goes, "Rodrigo, you're back." So she thinks of him as Rodrigo. And Wilfred is saying, "Well, wait a minute, this moose belongs to me." And by the end of the story, the moose smells yet another apple and is off. And this time we have a priest who says, "Dominic, you're back, and you've brought me an apple." So this is just a lot of fun, but the art lesson on the Amazon website for that is just charming. This is a little different book for us. I don't know how long it's going to hold up because it's a pull, pop, and lift the flap type of book. It's called Animals Upside Down. Just to give you an idea, it says that the weaver bird has to turn upside down to get out of his nest. And if you pull the tab down, there's the weaver bird. It says that the hanging parrot is the only bird that sleeps upside down. And then there's more information about both the weaver bird and the hanging parrot. And then there's our friend the bat. And it says, unlike most birds, a bat can't get airborne by simply flapping its wings. Because it roosts upside down, however, it can take off by dropping into space. So this is just, if you've got a child that loves animals, this is just an absolute treasure. It probably would make a much better gift book than it does a library book, just because of its, fragile format. But just absolutely brilliantly done. This one is called Alphasaurs. And what's interesting to me is she does the illustrations in various typeface. So this one is obviously about dinosaurs. Here's our friend the Brachiosaurus. And the dinosaur, the Brachiosaurus, is made up of the letter B. The whole design is the upper and lowercase b. So everything about the Brachiosaurus, there's little factual information along the bottom of the page, and everything is related to B. Because of its long neck, scientists are baffled by how this dinosaur got enough blood into its itty-bitty brain. Brachiosauruses were the largest known dinosaurs, as long as a basketball court. And then additional information there. And just to give you another idea, this is the Gigantosaurus. And everything down here at the bottom of the page contains, G words. The Gigantosaurus was the heaviest carnivore ever to grace the earth, weighing as much as 40 gorillas. Inside that giant noggin was a brain smaller than a grapefruit. And again, the Gigantosaurus, it's all made of upper and lowercase g's. And at the very back of the book, there is a chart in which she tells you the various typefaces for each dinosaur, what font was used. I always love reading children's books because I always learn something. It's fascinating to me, the quality of children's nonfiction books. Oftentimes, I'm interested in something, but maybe I don't want to read a you know, 200 or 300 page adult title about it. But it's just incredible the quality of children's nonfiction and what you can learn. And this is a prime example. I'm not a huge baseball fan. So when this book came in called Miracle Mud, Lena Blackburn and the Secret Mud That Changed Baseball, I was very much intrigued. This is written by David Kelly. And what I found out was that there was a man back in about the 1930s. His name was Russell Aubrey or Lena Blackburn, and he loved baseball and wanted to be a baseball player. And in fact, he did play professional baseball, mostly for the Chicago White Sox, but he was not particularly good. That's not to say that he wasn't successful, but he was never going to be a Babe Ruth or that caliber of player that he admired so much. But what I found interesting was in the day, baseballs, when they're new, they're very difficult for the pitcher to hold on to because they're slick. And so the pitchers would use spitting tobacco, and they would soak them in water to make them rough, and so that they wouldn't be filled with nicks and scuffs. That made how the ball was delivered go through the air differently if it had nicks and scuffs on it. And then the batters didn't like the white ball because the white ball was harder to see. So one day Mr. Blackburn was out fishing, and he was on the banks of the Delaware River, and he stepped in a big pile of mud. And he took that mud off of his shoe, and it kind of gave him an idea. He started putting that mud on baseballs, and he allowed it to dry, and then he could take a dry cloth and it would just rub right off, and the ball was perfect for the pitcher because he could hold on to it and it didn't have nicks and scuffs, and it was perfect for the batter because they could hit it. And so when his career as a baseball player was over, he started selling mud to the professional baseball teams. And what I found so interesting was that he ended up in the Baseball Hall of Fame for Lena's baseball mud. There is a display of the container of mud. It's still sold to this very day, and that the home team for the baseball game, that team covers 72 balls with the mud and then cleans them, and it's still used, and it is the only thing that is used on baseballs to this very day. Another book that I'd like to share with you is called Lifetime: The Amazing Numbers in Animal Lives by Lola Schaefer. This is way beyond just a counting book, although that is a part of it. This just shows how numbers relate to various species of animals, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. In one lifetime, this spider will spin one papery egg sac. And there's the spider, and there's the egg sac. And then it goes on to say, in one lifetime, this caribou will grow and shed 10 sets of antlers. And it goes on and on up through the various numbers here. There's our cover illustration. In one lifetime, this woodpecker will drill 30 roosting holes in the woods. And I think there's one in here of a crocodile, I think, that was particularly kind of eye-catching. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah. In one lifetime, this alligator will build 22 nests and lay 550 eggs. I think the artwork is very, very catching. I think that the children are always interested in animals. I love the use of math, the math connection here. And at the very back of the book, there is a section on that provides additional information about each of the animals that were featured. And then also there is a section on averages. So how they determined that the crocodile would lay 22 nests and 550 eggs. So it's a little mini math lesson there on how to determine average. Again, math in a very, very appealing way. This book is called Flight of the Honeybee by Raymond Huber. I really liked the way that very accurate information was relayed in a very appealing, simple way. The premise for this book is that it creates a little scout bee, and they name her Scout. And this part of the text is going to give you a little simple storyline about this actual bee and what she does. And then below the little storyline for Scout, there's factual information about honeybees, such as there are about 50,000 female bees in a hive and very few males. I think and it goes on about how she searches, for the flowers. My favorite illustration was this one. I just thought it was just beautiful. The storyline is there's drama, Scout gets attacked by some wasps, and will she be able to find the flowers and gather the honey? And yet the information along the bottom of the page, you're learning a lot as you're keeping up with this little story. Like on this particular page, the bee's dance is a complex language that can communicate millions of different messages. But the artwork, just simply stunning. For this particular page, it says bees need to harvest nectar from more than 2 million flowers to make enough honey to fill just one jar. So Scout has made it back to the hive and communicated the location of the flowers through her dance, and now her sister bees are off to find the flowers. Very well done, Flight of the Honeybee. I also seem to include a poetry book every year just because I love poetry so much. This year, of course, is no exception. This one is called Cat Talk by Patricia McLaughlin and was illustrated by Barry Moser. The artwork is stunning. The poetry is just so friendly and approachable to children. This particular illustration and poem is about one of the cats named Sylvie. This is called Sylvie the Boss. And I wanted to show you Sylvie because I wanted to read you one of the poems, and the one I've chosen to read is the one by Romeo. So here's Romeo's poem. I am a lover cat. I love everyone. I fall over onto people I love. You can pet me anytime, anywhere. You can wake me and I'll play. I fall over onto Sylvie too. She hisses, but I still love her. I love everyone. Just beautiful illustrations and again, very approachable poetry. I'm Toy Lancaster, Youth Services Manager for the Lexington Public Library. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you about some of my favorite picture books for 2013. Please keep in mind that these books are all available at any of the Lexington Public Library's 6 locations. You can request a bibliography of all of the titles, and you can also request that online. I'll be happy to email you a copy. We will be in February having our Best Picture Books of the Year program, and we will be featuring many, many more books. Thank you for your time.